Kamala Harris is not weird, right? That crazy laughter, that stuff, not weird. That's joy. The weird dancing and the strange motions, that's not weird. That's joy. And if you don't understand that it's joy, it's because you don't understand joy. That's very good news for Democrats.
So apparently Republicans went absolutely fucking mental about that. And there was the Ben Shapiro video, wasn't there? Where he looks like probably the least clean cut I've ever seen him. At least for a few years. Tampon Tim. Yeah, don't forget Tampon Tim. But Ben Shapiro did a video where he looks pretty unhinged. So he's done a 1 hour thing here, but where's the video when he's just filming himself on his fucking phone in his bathroom crying? Where is it on his Twitter? He's been tweeting quite a lot recently. This is a really good thumbnail, isn't it? This is a Tim Walz and Ilhan Omar, obviously, and there's the Iran guy, because he's a terrorist. He must be a terrorist. He's been posting a shitload of Tim Walz memes. Okay. Ben reacts. He doesn't normally look this rough, does he? He looks quite rough.
Alrighty, so we have now seen the debut of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz on the national stage, and we saw Kamala Harris introduce him. So, obviously, very, very high energy event. Kamala Harris is bringing out gigantic crowds. Democrats are, in fact, enthused. They brought out Josh Shapiro for a little bit of a consolation run. He yelled a bit, and his voice broke, and he talked a little bit about being Jewish, which gave Democrats cover to ignore the fact that the explicit reason they did not pick him is because he's a Jew. And then Kamala Harris did an entire speech in which...
I think it's also because he has a little bit more baggage. He said a lot of fucking nasty shit when he was a bit younger. But also just because Walz is just a better candidate. He seems to be better at energizing crowds. He seems more popular. He's got a good record. His policy record in Minnesota is really, really positive. He's got a good image. The fact that he's progressive is quite easily couched by the fact that he's also a Midwestern guy from a small town who was a teacher and a coach and a fucking National Guard veteran. So, yeah, okay, cool.
She really did.
But yeah, don't let that get in the way of the propaganda wing. Okay.
Didn't talk about politics very much. It was just mostly about unity. She actually tried to channel Barack Obama / 2008, circa 2008. She was talking about red states and blue states. She was talking about how she was going to govern for all Americans. And then she gave you the background on Tim Walz. And apparently, according to Kamala Harris, the relevant stuff about Tim Walz is not that he presided over the burning down of Minneapolis and, in his own words, abjectly failed to stop that from happening.
Well, that's not quite what the whole story was. The whole story was, first of all, that Tim Walz's delayed response to get the National Guard deployed was by 1 day, just so you guys know. It was 1 day before he signed the executive order that got the National Guard involved. The failure was twofold. One was that, at least according to Walz, was that there was not enough, that the request for the National Guard was too vague. There wasn't any kind of like clear mission statement or request for what they wanted them to do. But also the fact that the fire services and the police services, there was a whole investigation done into this, was that they actually had like a complete lack of communication across the board. So people didn't really know like what they needed and where. But again, this was solved a day late, and a day is a long time when rioting's happening, obviously. But what do they mean by abject failure? Like, with the buck completely stopping at Walz, that's just not true. At the end of the day, he got the National Guard in. Okay. Anyway.
It's not that he's praised socialism. It's not that he's blown out the budget to the tune of a 40% increase in the last year. It's not that
this is actually from the investigation that was done into it. The group found that the police and fire departments, among other things, neglected their own emergency plans and never set up an adequate emergency command structure. And that led to poor communication with police officers and firefighters who were out on the streets, and also inconsistent decision-making by leaders. An example, Kathy, among other things, supervisors trying to pull fire crews off the street in that week of May 2020 had to resort to a phone tree because they were unable to get into a password-protected communication system. And then they moved to try and get these communication systems set up, and they were set up within 2 years. So again, you can say that there was a mistake here, and I think even Walz at least admits to that, but compare that to, I'm sorry, do you think, has Trump ever taken responsibility for his failed response to January 6th? No, so fuck off. He's trying to get them pardoned. Just one question, okay? One question if we're going to talk about riots. Have the Democrats ever called for a pardoning, have Harris or Walz ever called for a pardoning of BLM rioters? Because Trump has wanted to pardon people who rioted on January 6th. Okay, done.
That he has presided over extraordinary fraud in the state of Minnesota. Of course, you wouldn't expect her to say any of those things. It's that if you go back far enough, he was a high school football coach. And don't you know, he's a teacher and a high school football. He's basically Mr. Feeney, but more athletic. He's like Ed Asner, avuncular, moderate, just one of the boys. You know, a guy who can crack a beer and can shoot a rifle, but is also really, really in favor of gun control and transing the kids. That's basically the pitch in favor of Tim Walz. So she does this routine. These rallies are incredibly well choreographed. I will say that. They are very well choreographed. She calls for a chant, and a chant goes up. First Democratic rally I've seen for a while where people start actually cheering USA. And why are they cheering USA? Because she says, what an amazing country this is. What an incredible country where a person like me, middle-class person, or Tim Walz, middle-class person, can become the president and vice president of the United States. Now, I agree with that. But she doesn't agree with that. She believes that America is systemically racist. So does Tim Walz. Tim Walz said back in 2020 that he believes that those riots were a reflection of the great evil that America represented. And yet here they are doing the unity.
So you understand this, like this happened after everyone watched George Floyd get murdered in the fucking streets and then by the cop who was found guilty of it. We all saw it happen and we all saw the verdict from the court at the end and the conviction. How is that contradictory to believing in what the American dream and middle class people being able to climb the social ladder? Okay.
Routine, and that's what is so false about all of this.
They're just really pissed off because in 2006, Tim Walz basically swung a very historically red district in Minnesota. I think one that had only ever gone blue one other time in the last 100 years. That he swung that seat.
As a born and raised Minnesotan, it's nice to see the entire right-wing cope about how based and effective our governor is.
And the fact that he was able to sustain that position in the wake of a Republican victory in 2010 and a Republican victory in 2016. The fact that he was able to do all this and actually keep Democrat control in parts of Minnesota that are actually historically red, just so you know. Yeah, it just makes them really, really mad that he's this effective at speaking to people like him, or people who believe the things that he does and has the rhetoric that he does, would not normally be convinced by that, but he actually is able to convince people like that. Yeah, that must make people like Ben really, really sulky. Thanks for the $25, Loud Scissors. I really appreciate that.
Is this idea that these folks are real reminders of what brings us together, that what they are really interested in more than anything else is governing for all Americans. They are radically to the left. This is why the Trump campaign has a moral obligation to remind the American people that these people are radically to the left. Okay, so that's all the intro to Tim Walz. Then Tim Walz gets up and he's...
I'm sorry, I'm not even from America. Do these people, how short are their memories? I mean, they can do this, like talk about transing kids or whatever, and try and use that as a way to get the center and the center-right voters back to Trump. You got two problems there. One is just calling your opponents socialists really, really lost its teeth after Barack Obama. Like, it didn't work. I mean, and we had everything we needed, right? We had those clips of Barack Obama telling a fucking plumber, a fairly well-off plumber, if I remember correctly, that it's better to spread the wealth around. I think that was the phrase that he used, which, again, the right-wingers jumped on and weaponized it like a fucking harpoon and tried to make out Obama to be a socialist. It failed. It was an abject failure of a political strategy. And that was actually back when socialism was much less popular as a word or a concept than it is now, when socialism actually still had a bit more fucking teeth when you used it against your opponents. Now it's got fuck all. The fact that they're still trying to pursue that angle is really, really weird. It kind of tells to a lack of long-term memory, I guess, politically. The other problem as well is that you are trying to say that Tim Walz and Kamala are extreme when your guy is a fucking felon who tried to coup the government. It's so, I don't know, it's a little bit difficult. And I haven't spoken to that many center-right, either moderate Republicans or even right-leaning Democrats who would maybe be put off by far-left policies. But I've met enough of them to know that they see through that, right? They see through how extreme Trump is in his actions, and everything you guys accuse the Democrats of trying to do, Trump actually does. Trump actually has tried to coup the government. He still doesn't, most of his voters still don't think the election results were real. one of his reasons for picking J.D. Vance was that it's well understood that had J.D. Vance been in Mike Pence's position on January 6th, he would have actually fallen in line with Trump. So it's, I don't know, it's a very tone-deaf attack. You need to have something positive in America. Americans love positivity. They're obsessed with positive thinking more than any other fucking culture in the entire planet, okay? They love the likable fellow. Like one of the best-selling books of all time in America is like fucking, what is it? How to Win Friends and Influence People. But with Trump, like the Republican campaign, it's all negative. They have nothing to stand for. They can't even say "Make America Great Again." They can't use that because the "Make America Great Again" they're referring to is not some nebulous nostalgia that people can just invent in their heads, right? They can't do that anymore because Trump's had his presidency. Now, "Make America Great Again" is Trump just constantly saying, we had the best economy, we had the best military, we had the best border, like all that shit, right? And it's 4 years ago and it happened during COVID, so it doesn't even work. People remember that time. It wasn't as great as he makes it out to be. Now, "Make America Great Again," build the wall, lock her up, has just become, here's why I shouldn't be locked up, because technically I was the president and I should have immunity because it's an official act. Okay. Build the wall is, well, the wall didn't completely stop under Biden and it's already, a lot of it's gone up and we're still mad about immigration. And we also tried to block an immigration bill that would have given people the right to close the border in the case of 5,000 encounters in a day. And we know that Trump blocked that legislation because he wanted something to run on in 2024. And "Make America Great Again" is what? My own presidency 4 years ago. And here's why it's everyone else's fault that we failed to win in 2020. It's just not really, doesn't really work. You know, populism, you tend to usually just get one chance to do it right. And you're f***ed if it doesn't work. So, I don't know. Doesn't mean he's definitely going to lose. I mean, they might get another chance, but it's less likely, I think. I think if this is what the Republicans have to offer as a response to Kamala and Walz, it doesn't look good for them. I don't know.
Quite good. I mean, let's just be frank about this. Tim Walz gives a speech, and the speech is avuncular and it's charming. He's smiling the whole time. He doesn't look uncomfortable smiling. He attacks J.D. Vance. He attacks Donald Trump, of course. The lowest point of the speech is his attempt to signal to his base that he'll take the gloves off with J.D. Vance. He makes some sort of dumb joke about J.D. Vance getting up off the couch, which is supposed to be a joke about a meme that was going around the internet about a false passage that doesn't exist in Hillbilly Elegy. Supposedly J.D. Vance having some sort of sexual relationship with the couch. It's really stupid. But
damn, he had to really go in there for the explainer that J.D. Vance doesn't actually want to fuck couches. Okay. By the way, crooked Hillary needs to get locked up. The election was stolen. We're going to lie 30 fucking times in a debate. We're going to lie thousands of times throughout our presidential fucking campaign. Also, Russia-Ukraine never would have happened had I been president. October 7th never would have happened if I had been president. That's all fine, but the couch joke, that's the lowest moment, really? I thought that's the moment that everyone loved. What the That's everyone's favorite moment, Ben. Keep up.
But it's become a Democrat meme, and now you've got the vice presidential contender who's actually throwing that out there in public. Wink, nod. He even stopped and said, "You can see what I'm doing there." And that's the whole idea here. Meanwhile, don't worry, he's bringing Americans together. Now, at no point were the challenges that actually face the country ever brought up. The challenges, apparently, according to Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, the big challenges are that Obamacare might get repealed. That's like the big challenge. The big challenge is that Donald Trump might ban abortion, which, of course, he has said he is not going to do and has no interest in doing. At no point was there any talk about fixing the economy. Apparently, the big threat to the economy is the Donald Trump tax cuts, according to Tim Walz. Mm-hmm. And if those tax cuts were to continue, people might be able to keep going.
Yeah, that's the fact. You know, Trump ran on, he did promise infrastructure. He couldn't get it through because he couldn't engage in bipartisanship to save his life. So, okay.
Of their own money. And that is a serious, serious problem. Meanwhile, you have Kamala Harris out there. No mention of the fact the Middle East is on fire. No mention of foreign policy. No mention of exactly why the Biden administration seems to have taken the side of Iran in the Middle East. None of that, of course. No serious dealing.
Like, how many people believe this, that Biden took the side of Iran in the Middle East? I don't think anyone buys that. I don't think that's a really good talking point. The fact that you can have, like, even, hang on. Am I misremembering this? Or did Trump not literally have a rally where his own supporters were calling Biden Genocide Joe?
drivers of Biden's inflation disaster is his war on American energy, and Pennsylvania energy is our big problem.
Genocide Joe! Genocide Joe! Genocide Joe! Genocide Joe!
He's milking it. He said they're not wrong. You know, Trump's whole story is that Biden's not allowing Israel to go harder, right? Like, Trump wants Israel to go harder, finish the war, finish the job. Okay. Sorry, Ben, not going to work.
With issues, and that is the theme of this campaign.
It's funny that even though Ben Shapiro is probably one of the more talented propagandists in the American right, probably one of the most, and even when it comes to Israel, he just does what every other Israeli right-winger is so guilty of just producing the worst, most fucking retarded hasbara that doesn't convince anyone. I love it that even Ben Shapiro has the fucking right-wing hasbara issue where they just can't do it. They can't sell their message to the rest of the world. It just falls flat on absolutely everything. Trying to say that whilst Trump is saying that Genocide Joe is not false, that Biden is also taking Iran's side. Okay, bro. Okay.
And that's the theme of this campaign. Ignore everything. Ignore all of the activities of the Biden campaign and the Biden-Harris administration. Ignore all of it. Ignore Tim Walz's tenure as governor. Ignore all of it. They are casting a TV show. And in this TV show, you have the very charming Kamala Harris, who apparently is filled with joy. That's the other thing that we learned here. So you got the words unity and you got a lot of joy. According to Tim Walz, Kamala Harris is not weird. Right? That crazy laughter, that stuff, not weird.
They really did just take that bait and try to do a fucking weird off of who's the more weird one. So you're telling me that Kamala Harris's laugh is not weird? I'm sorry. You understand that we do live in the same reality, okay? You understand that I can hear the things that you are hearing. You are trying to tell me with a straight face that Kamala Harris is not weird. You're telling me that. You are delusional if you think Kamala Harris's laugh is not weird, okay? Like, holy shit, bro. They really did fall into that trap that no one actually really set for them, which is to get absolutely fucking hysterical about how weird the other side is, about how actually, no, it's you guys that are weird. No one set that trap for them, but they just fell into it anyway. What the fuck? Hang on. What does Ben Shapiro look like when he laughs?
Don't just do it. Innovation is a process, but you know.
This is him trying to do the Kamala laugh. The thing is like Ben Shapiro trying to make Kamala Harris's laugh look weird makes him look even more weird. I don't
Savage her for not having conceded.
What if he shows grace towards Hillary Clinton? He's the president. He's not trying to get it anymore.
Sorry, you just like oh my god, what's this country?
How high is his voice going? See, again, I would have to shoehorn pretty hard to make this like a whole bit, but it's about as out of the ordinary as Kamala's laugh. I don't get what they're trying to make so much out of these fucking. The only thing I'd say here for to a right winger is maybe like get a fucking chromosome check for that laugh, but otherwise, okay. What are we doing?
Joy, the weird dancing and the strange motions. That's not weird.
The weird dancing. Hang on. We watched the video. Wait, okay. Like, which dance was he doing there?
That's joy. And if you don't understand that stuff, not weird. That's joy. The weird dancing and the strange motions.
He's talking about this, isn't he? He's talking about this. I'm sorry, you expect to look at me straight in the face and tell me this is not weird dancing. You're telling me this is really people having a good time. Liberal. The fuck, man. What? I know what it is. I know it's Ben Shapiro's brain and a bunch of fucking POCs, bunch of fucking black people, and what sounds like AK-47s in the background. He thinks this is a fucking Congolese coup. That's what he thinks is happening here. And that's why this is inauthentic joy. that this is Kamala fucking practicing to be the first ever American warlord president. There's going to be a civil war, and Kamala is not really going to be so much of a president as an overseer of territory, where the border changes every 8 minutes depending on how the skirmishes are going. You, a Democrat, sincerely approve of this laugh. Okay.
It's not weird. That's joy. And if you don't understand that it's joy, it's because you don't understand joy. Okay, so again, all of this is pablum. It's crap.
Whereas little do they understand that I, in fact, do understand joy. Whilst I look like I've spent the last fucking 3 days in a K-hole. What? Why does he look so... Has he been flying? He's probably been flying, right? He's filming this from a hotel room or from like... I don't even know.
It's insulting crap for people who actually follow politics, but what I fear is that most Americans do not follow politics. And this is why, once again, it is...
And this is why they do not understand that I, in fact, am capable of understanding joy, as I have had joy. I've experienced joy. I had a good time, in fact, last week. I played catch with my child, and I was happy for 3 minutes. Like, joke's on you, liberal.
Incumbent on the Trump campaign to remind Americans of who these people are. Nobody has ever heard of Tim Walz. They don't know that he presided over the burning down of Minneapolis. They do not understand that Tim Walz, who had people chanting, "Mind your own business," at this rally, literally forced everyone to close their business in the state of Minnesota during the pandemic. He was one of the worst lockdown governors in America. It's up to Donald Trump and teams.
We have to look at that talking point. Was he one of the worst lockdown governors? Why does he keep winning at times when every other person in his situation was swinging to Republican? I think even since 2006, Tim Walz's whole thing is that he's held on to positions that were otherwise like lost by Democrats, that you would expect a Democrat to lose. What was the COVID mortality by state? Where's Minnesota on there? Minnesota is one of the lowest, actually. Only states that had a lower death rate were what? New Hampshire, Vermont, and Hawaii. Yeah. Kentucky. Ye fucking ha, bro. Look at these guys. Okay.
Remind people of that. The media are not going to do it. And as much as conservatives like I will complain that the media are not doing their job, of course they're not doing their job. Because what we think their job is, to do journalism, is not what they think their job is, which is to provide cover for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz long enough that they enter the White House. So let's not make a mistake about this. The Tim Walz pick, it's going to have a lot of vulnerabilities that Trump can attack, but Trump has to do the attacking. There's certainly enthusiasm. There's certainly talent on the left side of the aisle. People forget that Kamala Harris on the stump can be quite good. We've seen so many clips of her being a weirdo that it's easy to forget that she actually got ahead in politics by being pretty good on the stump, at least from 2019 on or so. Mm-hmm. She hasn't met the road yet. The rubber has not met the road. She's not been asked a tough question. But Republicans are going to have to do that. I don't want to open my YouTube and see 100 Kamala Harris, Tim Walz ads. The Trump campaign needs to be dumping hundreds of millions of dollars into introducing the Harris-Walz team, the radical duo, the bail out the rioters from
It's
prison.
almost like, because I think Ben Shapiro's whole defense of Trump, I heard him say this once, was that he liked Trump because Trump did fuck all legislation. The only legislation that was big that Trump did was tax cuts. Because Ben Shapiro likes that. He doesn't like infrastructure bills, even though Trump actually said he would do one. Yeah. It's funny that Ben Shapiro is kind of like being quite open in the fact that, like, yeah, the Republicans need to smear. They need to be fucking negative. They need to smear their opponents. That's what you need to do. You need to smear the absolute fuck out of them. You need to find a good name for both of them. Tampon Tim, Crazy Kamala. Okay, that's good. That'll stick. Oh, God.
Prison candidate and the governor who didn't want to put them in prison in the first place. They need to introduce that team to the American people, because if the only team the American people see is the team that was at that rally, that's very good news for Democrats.
Your Honor, I submit to you that Ben has never experienced joy in his life. I present to you Exhibit A.
Now, we're going to do something we haven't done in a while. So over the last week or so, there's been a lot of attention paid to a music video. It's called WAP, okay, which we're going to get into.
I never actually watched
in
this.
Just 1 second. And it seems to me that there's a segment that we've been remiss in ignoring for a long time now on the show. We used to do it much more regularly. It was called Deconstructing the Culture. So it is time once again to deconstruct the culture, where we see an important piece. So as you can see, there's water pouring out from the front of the
where does he read the lyrics?
Okay, here are these two ladies, and then there is just a giant golden butt.
Where does he read the lyrics?
Okay, and then there's golden boobs that apparently are spouting water. It's yeah, so this is all great. And then there's some tigers, and this is apparently the tackiest mansion that has ever been. And then there's them lying there with a bunch of snakes. And, you know, kind of typical music video kind of stuff, but it's very empowering. This is deeply, deeply empowering stuff. So if you can't hear the lyrics, because I don't know why you would hear the lyrics, frankly. Here are some of the lyrics. This is empowering stuff, guys. This is like Susan B. Anthony. This is like women fighting for the right to vote. This right here is women fighting for the right to work. Right here, what we are watching is women fighting for the equal right to talk about their wet-ass P-word. That's what WAP stands for. So here are the actual lyrics. Okay, and this is not demeaning to women in any way. It's not demeaning to women in any way. It doesn't turn women into sex objects. It doesn't make men think of women in a purely sexual fashion. It is women empowering themselves. It is super empowerment. Here are some of the lyrics. You ready? Whores in this house. There's some whores in this house. There's some whores in this house. There's some whores in this house. Hold up. I said certified freak 7 days a week. Wet ass P-word. Make that pullout game weak. Yeah, you effin' with some wet ass P-word. P-word is female genitalia. Bring a bucket and a mop for this wet ass P-word. Give me everything you got for this wet ass P-word. Beat it up, N-word. Catch a charge. Extra large and extra hard. Put this P-word right in your face.
I'm sorry. Listen, this is not supposed to... People think this is an exhibit against Ben Shapiro. This is probably the funniest thing Ben Shapiro's ever done in his entire life. This makes me so happy, okay?
Swipe your nose like a credit card. Hop on top, I want to ride. I do a kegel while it's inside. Spit in my mouth.
This is where I learned that Ben Shapiro in another life would actually be quite a lovable person. Just saying. Anyway. Okay. Well, okay. I'm sorry to hear that he's somewhat upset. I really hope he sorts out whatever happened here. That he sobers up and gets back on track. Hope he discovers that Ket isn't for him. Ben Jabronio. What a dude. Oh, Vosh is watching the same
for
thing.
People who actually follow politics, but what I fear is that most Americans do not follow politics, and this is.
Oh, wait, he actually is afraid. Oh man, that's so nice. That's.
I noticed Hassan was tweeting really positively about Walz, but then there was another clip going around suggesting that there's another clip going around suggesting that he's actually still against voting or whatever. Or I don't think he is though. I don't think he's against voting. It's fun. It's weird that like people like Hassan can kind of live in this double life where for most of the 4 years they're like Marxist-Leninists who talk about the American imperial core that's exploiting the rest of the world, and anything that does happen in America is only because we looted it from fucking San Juan or whatever, or Bangladesh, I don't even, Mexico. But then for election season, because that's where the viewers are coming in from, you'd suddenly become like a just a left-leaning Democrat. Puerto Rico. Well, yeah, Puerto Rico was colonized by the United States, wasn't it? He said Democrats have to earn your vote even if Trump is running. He also said voting does nothing because Biden did not stop Roe v. Wade getting overturned. There's no way he said that recently. He must understand how the system works, like the three branches. Bro. Summarize your views on Walz. Are you happy it wasn't Shapiro? Yeah, I prefer Walz to Shapiro. I've heard better things about him. I like his legislative record. He's very likable. He's extremely likable. I've never seen someone so likable in my entire life.